Tensions between China and Japan are simmering toward a potential boiling point over Taiwan, raising fears that a regional crisis could one day spiral into something far more serious. On November 7th, Japan's Prime Minister Takaichi warned that a Chinese attack on Taiwan could threaten Japan's very survival, directly linking Taiwan's fate to Japan's own security. China hit back by denouncing what it called resurging Japanese militarism, invoking painful memories of past wars and stoking long-standing historical fears among its own public. Yet the key question remains whether this escalating war of words could realistically translate into direct military action between China and Japan, or whether it will stay rhetorical. According to a recent report published by Asia Times, Japan is currently not considered a military threat to any nation, as its capabilities and strategic posture remain overwhelmingly defensive. The report says Tokyo possesses only minimal power projection capability, and its self-defense force continues to shrink, making it increasingly difficult for Japan to assert influence beyond its immediate region. Asia Times also notes that JSDF recruitment efforts fall short by anywhere between 20 and 50% every single year, leaving Japan's armed forces at nearly half the size that military planners say is necessary for proper national defense. Experts further emphasize that Japan has no realistic ability to match China's rapidly expanding navy, advanced air force, extensive missile arsenal, or its powerful nuclear capability, making any military competition between the two vastly unequal. Japan today operates roughly 60 major warships, giving it a capable but limited blue water fleet primarily focused on self-defense and nearby sea lanes. China, by contrast, fields more than 350 warships, creating the world's largest navy by hull count and allowing sustained operations across multiple theaters. Japan deploys around 24 submarines, emphasizing quiet, high-end diesel-electric boats suited for defensive ambush roles around its home waters. China operates over 60 submarines, including nuclear-powered boats that can range widely and remain at sea far longer than conventional subs. Japan currently has 2 carriers that are F-35B capable, optimized for short takeoff stealth jets and regional air-sea defense missions. China already sails 3 aircraft carriers and is expanding further, aiming to project power across the Western Pacific and beyond. In addition, China benefits from a large armed maritime militia composed of dual-hull and commercial-style vessels, which can swarm contested waters under civilian cover. Japan's air force is roughly 1/3 the size of the People's Liberation Army Air Force, limiting its capacity to sustain large-scale operations over extended timeframes. China fields nuclear-capable bombers, integrating them into a broader long-range strike network that reaches deep across the region. Japan has no strategic bombers and no nuclear weapons, keeping its force structure conventionally focused and constrained by its pacifist constitution. China continues to expand its nuclear triad, building land-based missiles, sea-based systems, and air-delivered options into a more robust deterrent. China's missile arsenal vastly outweighs Japan's in number, range, and variety, allowing Beijing to threaten bases and infrastructure across the First Island chain. Japan, in response, is increasingly reliant on emerging long-range missiles, seeking to develop a modest counterstrike capability rather than numerical parity. Japan's ground self-defense force numbers around 150,000 troops, focused largely on homeland and island defense rather than expeditionary war. China's People's Liberation Army fields about 965,000 active ground troops, giving it an overwhelming numerical advantage on land. China deploys heavy armor and mechanized formations at large scale, enabling massed ground operations if conflict were ever to spread. Japan has oriented its forces toward defending remote islands and key choke points, prioritizing mobility and rapid reinforcement over heavy invasion forces. According to Asia Times, Japan's Marine Brigade could land about 3,000 troops in an operation and, in the grand regional picture, almost nobody would notice the difference. Tokyo's shortfalls in manpower, lift, and strike capacity leave it struggling to defend simultaneously against potential threats from China, Russia, and North Korea. China's PLA carries out near-daily military operations around Taiwan and within or near Japan's air and maritime territory, normalizing constant pressure. Beijing's Coast Guard and maritime militia apply year-round pressure on Japan around the Senkaku Islands, testing resolve and response patterns. PLA naval forces and militia vessels routinely surround Taiwan and dominate large parts of the South China Sea on a daily basis. China also encroaches on Philippine waters, harassing local vessels and occupying key shoals to cement its maritime claims. Beijing has gone so far as to rhetorically challenge Japan's claim to the entire Ryukyu island chain, touching directly on Japanese sovereign territory. Tokyo, by contrast, has not threatened any neighboring nation nor pursued aggressive territorial expansion in the modern era. Tokyo may be able to build a strong localized defense posture in its surrounding waters and skies, especially when combined with US support and fully joint operations. Japan could play a meaningful role in helping a US-led coalition defend Taiwan, but it cannot realistically match China's full military power on its own. Analysts argue that Japan needs new hardware, deeper modernization, and much better inter-service jointness to coordinate land, sea, air, and cyber forces effectively. Regional allies reportedly see Japan as a stable, humane partner and an essential part of any broader strategy to balance China's rise. However, experts conclude that Japan cannot take on China directly in a one-on-one fight, but it can significantly help deter Beijing by strengthening a larger coalition.